think that first of all, and a critical part of management skills is to work with good people. I think that is a major skill, I think, is to identify good people and be able to work with them and to empower them. You can break the business up into lots of different compartments, 6, 7, 8, 10, whatever it may be. And for me, in those first 100 days, was to meet as many people as I possibly could within the business and listen to what they had to say. What I did know was that for most of the last 10 years or so, Derby had not fulfilled its potential. It was not unique in that. You know, most football clubs don't fulfil their potential. But my challenge was to make Derby County a club that could thrive. One of the challenges that was really clear was that the connection between the fan base and the club, which was so critical, had been lost. I made some structural changes. Probably in my first 60 days, I revamped the exec team. So I changed, I restructured that. I made some changes in the finance team, the operations, commercial, so most of the media team. So most of the different key bits within the operations in the first 60 days I changed. Because again, that was what I was probably a little bit more comfortable with. That's get the off-field sorted. I sort of understand how businesses need to be run. And if I can get my business of the football club sorted, then I can move on to really what does matter, where we sort of restructured the club to make it a bit more like a European model. Although I've got to say now, I think pretty much everyone, you know, your club West Brom, and everyone now has gone down this route of head coach and recruitment model. It's sort of become the fashionable way to go about it. Absolutely nothing can prepare you for life. It really is. It's the most unique and extraordinary business. But clearly, it wasn't quite my first 100 days. But the hardest part, and it still was, I think, looking back. I mean, I've now done more, over 2 years. But the hardest and most difficult time was the changing of the manager in Nigel Clough. There's no doubt about that. It was an extremely difficult time. And I suppose my observations, which to some degree comes from the first 100 days, but then lasted a little bit longer, was the club needed a stimulus. And the observations that I made, and I think as a chief executive, as well as setting out the vision and the strategy, you're the sort of link man, particularly in a football club, but generally also in a corporate organisation, between the shareholders and the rest of the business. And clearly that the shareholders and the investment group and the connection between the football side had become fractured. We can see that there's been a decent amount of investment for Steve McLaren, and the club appears like it's thriving. That clearly wasn't the case in 2012, 2013, and probably before. You harness those brave actions, but you've got to think them through. When you start getting reckless, then you are going to fail. But if you can be brave and have a calculated bravery and a conviction in what you're doing, then that will come through. So I think that desire and that conviction in what you're seeking to do, I think, is very relevant in business generally, that people have a real passion and a belief in that they can make a contribution and that what they're seeking to do is right. And even if they're going to be bumps along the road, the tough thing about football, which is unique, is that everyone views it. So in people's general business environment, you have your ups and downs, great sales week, bad sales week, great relationship with customer, bad relationship with customer, great essay that you've done, poor. On the whole, not many people know about it, and so you can ride the ups and downs. The thing about football is it's all in the public eye, and that takes a lot of getting used to. People that are going to be working in sport and in the future, we rely on sport and we rely on the business and sport on the connectivity with our audience. We talked about the TV rights and the percentage of GDP and all this. That is a result of public's connection with sport. We wouldn't be able to run Derby County as we do and strive to get in the Premier League if it wasn't for the fact that people spend fortunes on their Sky television subscriptions and pump loads of money into football. But the fact that we have this great connectivity means that people connect in so many different ways, and they are so accessible all the time, and that takes a lot of getting used to. I'm very much of the view, and I think it's really, really important, and it's one of the areas where football clubs can, I think, sort of go a bit wrong. We all love football. I guess we all think we know and we can pick our team, and frankly, the head coach is always a bit wrong, isn't he? He never picks the right players. But I think that from the point of view is, if you are going to appoint someone, you've got to let them do the job. And I think that's where I see a lot of clubs go wrong. I don't think you should automatically think because you're leading a business, or that you know the answer to everything, or that you are right, or that you should impose your will. I think part of it, undoubtedly, is when you're assembling people, and another thing more true in football, because of such the variety and the spread of skill set, which is so big, you can't possibly be equipped to do everyone's job. But I think, particularly for me, and it'll be the case in lots of people, you're managing more experienced, older, lots of cases more talented people, and so that's not easy in the Premier League. But it was a very different Premier League then. 2 years of parachute monies equating to 25 million quid. Now, 25 million quid is not a sum of money to be sniffed at. But if Derby go up into the Premier League this year or next year, you're going to see monies probably around the 150 to 200 million mark. So that shows the difference even in 7 years. And so if you're looking at a sort of 8 to 10-fold increase in your money at that sort of level, you probably are going to get a little bit twitchy, and that's part of my responsibility. Is everyone associated with Derby last season, second half of last season, throughout this season, has got that anticipation. Whatever your relationship with, be it a supporter, be it someone working at the club, be it a player, be it an event, you're all feeling it at the moment. That's what drives us on. But part of my responsibility is to manage that, and part of my responsibility with my shareholder base and my ownership group is to manage their expectations and to get them to buy into the vision, which is that there's a great future out there for Derby County, a wonderful, wonderful future. And I have no doubt that when we look back in some years' time, we will be looking back at a club that is firmly established in the Premier League. I've absolutely no doubt about that, because if you look at what Derby stands for and all the strength that it has, it's a slam dunk in the Premier League. It has to be. You've got the Championship business plan, you've got the Premier League business plan, then you've got the Championship to Premier League to back to Championship, and then you've got the Premier League, and you've got the Premier League to Premier League to so you've got so many different scenarios that you have to prepare for. And so, yeah, there's probably 4 or 5 that we're sort of running at the same time. But it's an extraordinary, I mean, I don't know many other businesses that are like that. We're currently a 20 million turnover business. We get promoted, we become 120 million. On May the 2nd or May the 25th, depending upon when the change may occur, Derby will add £100 million overnight to its turnover. And that is a pretty unique business, to 6-fold increase, and so it takes a lot of planning. The Football League doesn't do brilliantly. I don't think it's sell its television rights fantastically. I think that the discrepancy between the Football League and the Premier League is, and it's not right that it's that. It's not right that it's that far. It shouldn't be. We're all striving to get into the Premier League for a whole variety of reasons. And if ever we fell out of the Premier League, it shouldn't be that the world's come to an end. It should be disappointing, but it shouldn't be we're now, one of the biggest companies in England, and oh dear, we're now right down. The discrepancy shouldn't be so great, but it currently is. So we get a set fee from the Football League for the sale of our television rights, and we get that annually. But the overall money that we get from the Football League for everything is about £4 million. So you compare that to the Premier League, where it's going to be £100 million. It's very, very different. I think that the sports market has expanded unbelievably, which is fantastic, but it's ever more competitive. So you'll sort of giveth with one hand and you taketh with another. I think that students are so better informed, remarkably better informed than they ever have been. I think your ability to consume information and find information and impart it has been transformatory. But again, equally, that information is available to everyone. So I think you're in a really, really competitive market. The good news in sport, though, is that it's a massively growing market, and the opportunities within it are growing all the time. So that is the good news. I think you've got to find your point of difference, and you've got to find a way in which you can, beat your man. You've got to beat the opposition. How can you do that? And I think you've got to find innovative ways of getting. This chap here asked about experience, and I think that that is something which can help you stand out a little bit. You've got a lot more experience, and there's no doubt whatsoever that you've got a huge amount to add to business.
Thank you. Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.